Okay. Say hi!
That's sweet, girl.
Hey y'all, and welcome back to Cooking Champagne. So today has obviously been a day, and it's been one of those days where you really just want to come home, put on comfy clothes, cuddle with your puppy, and have a little glass of wine. So today we're gonna be making a pizza where you do not have to feel guilty about it in the slightest, especially when it comes to the crust. It's quick and it's easy, and it's also Weight Watchers approved, which is awesome, and it's only 2 ingredients. So I have a couple things here for toppings. You can honestly top this with whatever you like. This is just what I tend to top mine with more often, but honestly, whatever you have. All right, so now we're gonna get started on the crust. Now this is really simple. Like I said, it's only 2 ingredients, which makes this so awesome for something quick and easy on a weeknight when you're coming home and you're just done. You don't feel like being in the kitchen for too long. You can whip this up, and it is so simple. So the key for this being 2 ingredient crust is that you're gonna wanna use self-rising flour. Now, if you're like me and you put your flour in these cute little clear containers in your pantry and you don't know if it's self-rising, an easy way to make it self-rising is for every cup of flour you use, you add 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and then there you go. But honestly, I don't know if mine is, and sometimes I add it, sometimes I don't, and it doesn't really make a difference. So, we're gonna add 1 cup of the flour. Second ingredient is plain non-fat Greek yogurt. You could use full fat if you wanted to, but this is actually originally a Weight Watchers recipe. So of course, Weight Watchers is gonna recommend that you use the non-fat or low-fat version, and you're just gonna use a cup. Now, the original recipes that I read for this type of pizza say 1 to 1, so a cup of flour, a cup of yogurt, but I do tend to find that as I mix this, I do add a little bit more flour just until it gets to more of like a dough consistency. It's gonna be really wet, so you might wanna add a little bit more flour just to make it more doughy and easier to work out on your pizza board or your baking tray, whatever you use. So we have a cup in here. I'm just gonna add this in, and now we're just gonna mix all this up. If you want, you can go in with your hands, but I don't feel like getting that messy, so I'm just gonna mix it up with a spatula. And as I mix it, if I feel like it needs more flour, I'll go ahead and add that in. And then you'll find that it'll turn into a ball just like this. So what we're gonna do now is I have a little pizza board here, or a pizza stone. You can put this in a cast iron skillet. I've done that before. It really helps make like a nice crispy crust. You can put it on a baking sheet, whatever you have. I just have this, so that's what I'm gonna use. So now I'm gonna come through and we're gonna put some of flour. If you wanna be fancy, you can put cornmeal on there and it'll get like a nice crispy crust. So we're gonna put that on there, and then we're gonna come in with our ball. Now, you could use a rolling pin. I don't have a rolling pin, so we're just gonna work this out with our hands until we get it to about the size crust that we want. And then, like I said, as I'm working with it, I'm just gonna keep adding some flour to my hands. So you may end up at the end of this using like more of a 1.5 cups, 1 3/4 of flour instead of just a cup, but so I'm just gonna work this out with my hands, and then we'll add our toppings. Alright, so we have our crust all spread out on our pizza stone here. If you want it to be a little bit thicker, you can leave it a little bit smaller, like kind of deep dish style. But I just have it spread out, leave it a little bit of an edge, just because with some of the toppings, if anything kind of melts off, I don't want it to fall too much off the stone. Now, like I said, this is honestly where you can put whatever you have, whatever you like. This is just one of my favorite ways, just because I have these ingredients in my my fridge all the time. So it's a great way for me to kind of use them up. I made this before with different types of sauces and things like that, but you can honestly be creative with it, use what you like. So for this one, this is actually a play on a Pioneer Woman's recipe that I love for this flatbread that she made. And for hers, she actually used, I think it was like fig preserve, and I was like, oh my gosh, pepper jelly would be such a great substitute for that because I always have pepper jelly in my pantry, in my fridge. The one I'm gonna be using for this recipe is actually garlic pepper jelly, which I love. It's sweet, it's savory, and I think it pairs really nicely with the pepperiness that we have with the arugula, the saltiness that we have with the prosciutto, and then the sweet kind of butteriness that the mozzarella adds to it. But use whatever you have, whatever you like. This is just what I really like. So I took some of this pepper jelly and I kind of nuked it in the microwave for a few seconds, and now we're just gonna plop little spoonfuls all over the crust. Alrighty, so now we got this nice and spread out evenly, and there's nice big clumps of garlic in here that are gonna be so good as this cooks and melts into the crust. This is kind of the part in this recipe where it's not so Weight Watchers friendly, but hey, at least we don't have to feel guilty about the crust. So balance. This is where I'm gonna go in with some mozzarella. Now, fresh mozzarella is something that I always have in my fridge. Typically, I keep these little marinated mozzarella balls more than I have like actual sliced mozzarella. You could use the pre-shredded stuff if you want to. You don't have to use anything fancy. Use whatever you have. I just always have these little balls on hand. I like to throw these in pastas and in salads. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna break them up. And then what's also really nice about having these is that they're marinated. So you can tell they have some seasonings and some herbs on them already, as well as a little bit of that, you know, really rich olive oil flavor that they're packed in. So it's just gonna add even more flavor. All right, so got those in there, and now we're gonna pop this bad boy into the oven. Now, I like to cook this as it is, or if you wanted to, you could add your arugula and your prosciutto and your Parmesan on top of it and bake it all together. I just really like the idea of having this baked cheesy crust and then adding the fresh arugula and the fresh prosciutto on top of it and keeping them kind of cool, but then letting them warm up on the crust once it comes out the oven. But honestly, do it how you like it. If you want. So we're gonna pop this into a 375-degree oven, and we're gonna let it cook for about like 18 to 20 minutes. We're just looking for the crust to get nice and brown and golden and set, and for the cheese to get nice and melted and bubbly. So just keep an eye on it. I find 18 to 20 minutes is usually pretty good. Alright, so like I said, this is where you can really have fun with whatever you like to top it with. Since this is like a really sweet, savory, decadent crust, I like to keep the topping a little bit on the lighter side, but honestly put whatever you like. So I have here some arugula, and you could dress this even too with some lemon juice, a little olive oil, salt, and pepper. So I'm just gonna put some on top, and I like to do this while the crust is straight out of the oven so that the heat from it can kind of start to wilt the arugula and soften it, and everything just kind of melds into one. And then I'm going to add some prosciutto. This is just some thin sliced ribbons of prosciutto. I love this stuff. So good. And now what we're gonna do is top it with just some Parmesan cheese, and this is just some pre-grated Parmesan cheese. That is it. Now if you wanted to, you could even pop this back into the oven and let everything kind of melt together, but I think this is great just as is, so I'm gonna let it cool and we're gonna carve it up.